Okay, here we go, brothers. We are KBH. This is Uncle Jeebers. This is your cousin Shamrock.
Hi.
And we just enjoyed the old 1994 documentary film called The Diamond Empire, which appears to be a collaboration between certain patriots in the U.S. government and maybe a member of the new mafia that is controlling diamonds and wanted to give a worse name to the old mafia.
Help give him the boot.
The goblin mafia that was controlling all the world's diamonds. The De Beers mafia. De Beers openly operates in Nanjing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was quite interesting. Today, when we were walking through the subway, we saw an advertisement for for how the diamond store here was promoting the film festival in Germany, in Berlin.
In Berlin, Germany.
Because everybody knows Nanjing and Berlin, they go together like
yeah, Nanjing, Berlin,
perfectly.
they're like brothers in lizards.
Yeah, I think so.
Lizards, yeah.
Yeah.
Not sisters, really.
Yeah.
And they were proudly announcing that they were funding, or that they were sponsors of the Berlin Film Festival, where they give away the golden bear, not the diamond bear, but the golden bear.
Also, it's quite funny to see. I went to watch a TV show earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, everyone knows that that China loves pop-ups on computer screens and websites. So today when I went to watch a TV show, there was an advertisement, and of course it popped up. And would you believe what it was for? Have a guess. I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
All right, the first guess is about carrots.
No.
No.
Kind of. Yeah, you're getting it.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Yep.
All right, potatoes.
No. Think back towards
Getting colder.
They do have carrots in them.
That's right. Maybe those carbon crystal things.
That's it. Yeah,
right.
the shiny rocks.
Yeah.
They love the shiny rocks for some reason.
So there's advertisements flashing up on your screen today too.
Yep.
What do we call this? We call this synchronicity. So just as we're watching this old documentary, certain things about diamonds just stand out everywhere that we didn't notice before. I didn't notice those advertisements. Well, it's called Tezero, I think is the company. And I don't really know what Tezero is. Maybe that's also Chen Yan in Chinese. Could be the same company.
Possibly.
Yeah. And that would be what we call like a laundered company. There's like 200 companies between De Beers and whoever's selling. Or now they're saying that a lot of these diamonds, perhaps most of them, are coming from Russia, which means that's from the Lev Leviev mafia. Lev Leviev is a very goblinish name. And he runs the Chabad Lubavitch. And the Chabad Lubavitch loves these smuggling clothes. And if you touch them or breathe on their smuggling clothes, these big fur hats.
Oy vey.
Oy vey!
Don't touch the hat.
Don't touch my hat. You're discriminating against my religion. Yeah. So, we made a couple notes about things that stood out to us, some issues with diamonds that perhaps you never really thought about before. First of all, we highly recommend that you watch this documentary and become acclimated to the idea that diamonds are useless, typically, other than industrial uses and for war.
They're very hard.
Yeah.
So they do have their uses, but for a trinket? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. For things for vanity, it doesn't really make much sense.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the proofs that diamonds are not worth very much? What do you think?
Well, I think just from the simple fact that they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. And if people can produce them, manufacture these things, then they're not very rare, are they?
No. He's talking about an artificial process that was first developed maybe by De Beers, but then it was also developed by IBM. No, General Electric.
GE.
Yeah, it was developed by General Electric, and they could produce cheaply produce.
And they could produce ones of pink, blue, yellow.
Yeah, they could add these colors. People are crazy about these colors. They're like, oh, this got pink in it, and then it sells for gazillions of dollars. Well, retail. But this is another very serious proof that diamonds are worth nothing. Is if you take that diamond that you paid as much as a car for, and you take it to the pawn shop, or you look to sell it secondhand, and it sells for nothing, right?
I'll give you $50 for it.
Right. Yeah, they're like, I'll give you $50 for that thing you spent $10,000.
I paid $10,000 for this thing. It's like, well, if you don't like my price, go to the guy across the street. He'll give you $40 or $50.
Right. Now, gold and silver, we believe, are also inflated markets. That people are selling gold and silver for much more than they're actually worth. But over history, gold and silver tend to tend to retain a certain value, don't they? But diamonds don't. You don't see people investing in diamonds. They invest in gold bars, silver coins, but you don't see ads on the web like, put all your money in diamonds, and actually, economic crisis coming, put them in diamonds, and when the dollar crashes, it's all you could sell you have all the diamonds. You don't see that. The diamonds are worthless.
Yeah. I'm thinking actually. I just thought of something. If silver has a purpose. It's good for you. Right. If you eat silver, it will help you. That's now, right. Diamonds, on the other hand, they have no medicinal purpose.
Right.
But they carry a lot of bad karma in it.
Yeah.
These shiny looking rocks look clear and pure.
Yeah.
But in fact, they're the exact opposite.
The opposite. So what he's talking about with the karma, if you watch the Diamond Empire movie, you'll see an interview with an extortionist who works for De Beers. And he tells you straight to the camera, I kidnapped people and I essentially tortured them, extorted them, and forced them to join De Beers or join the mafia or get out of the market, or they're controlling the supply of diamonds so that they sell very high in retail, and then they're at the same time advertising them as things that represent your marriage or things you don't want to end. So there's things that people don't often think, well, I should sell and see how much I get for it. And that's sort of strange because we all kind of think about the sale value when you buy something. How much could you sell it for later? People consider these issues, but they don't consider them with diamond. But that extortion, torture, he was admitting kidnapping, right? He said he kidnapped some people, torture. And this must be very widespread to have a global company, one company that controls everything. That has to be a violent mafia. And so every one of those crystals has this energy in it of death, destruction, murder, extortion, torture. Not just blood diamonds like you saw in the movie, but
every single
stone.
So,
like, if this apartment, if some mad axe murderer killed his whole family, 5 different people, and chopped them up in this apartment, and then people came in, cleaned it all out, arrested the guy, and then went to sell the apartment, would people come and buy it?
Absolutely.
In Nanjing we have an area called Yuhuatai, which is where a lot of these dead soldiers are buried, right? Dead. Maybe they call it monuments to martyrs and stuff, but there might be guomindang.
Yeah, there's just dead people there.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead people there, and the housing crisis has just been suffering there because nobody wants to live on top of tombs. They don't want to live in haunted buildings. They don't want to be in a place where murder and mayhem occurred. But then,
well, if you had an option, would you choose a nice, clean place with nice, decent people, or would you choose a place with dead people?
Yeah. And you can't wash it out.
Yeah.
You know, if you take it's like Lady Macbeth said, you know, out damn spot, right? Her hands look clean, but then the blood that was there leaves an imprint of the murders that they committed in the play. And then she begins to see that, not with her flesh eyes, but with her spiritual eyes or perception, and understands that they've committed a very grave crime. And that's the whole essence of the thing. So why would you put this gold and diamonds on your skin, and then they carry these vibrations of death, mayhem, and murder? A lot of them coming from Africa, these diamonds, right? Places, murderous places. Really, really scary places with a lot of violence.
And that is actually probably why. Now, this could be two reasons why. One, the level of divorce has just gone through the roof of late. And now, well, if a diamond is a girl's best friend, then, well, apparently the husband isn't anymore, so get rid of him and keep the diamond.
Right.
Now, this is interesting for two ways. One, if you're putting death on your finger, or around your neck, or wherever you put it, you are going to have a failed marriage. You're bringing all this horrible energy that destroys things into your family, so it will destroy your family.
Yeah.
How do you destroy a family? You divorce.
Right.
And also from a marketing point of view, I do business here, and then if I wanted people to keep buying my products, what's the best way to do this? If I want people to continue to buy my engagement rings, well, getting married once just doesn't make sense.
No.
How can I make it so that people are constantly getting married?
And who are the poster girls, not men, but who are the poster girls for diamonds? You know, look how many... Well, think about that one. One was Elizabeth Taylor, right? How many times did she get divorced?
Well, I'm sure it was only once or twice.
Yeah.
A week.
Right. And what's her name? You were talking about Liza Minnelli,
Liza
right?
Minnelli?
How many times was she divorced? 20?
How many people are in the world?
Yeah.
How many diamonds does she had? She had probably one diamond for each engagement.
Right.
And she probably has a whole room full of diamonds, so each one of them equals a new husband.
This is sort of a fallacy, and it's the big lie, right? So they connect in the advertising, which is mostly in the movies, by the way, which is why I think they're related to the Berlin Movie Festival now. They connect this diamond with marriage, and then you're going for something that's indestructible. But then we noticed that this whole myth through the documentary, because I was born much later. I'm born in 75. You're born in
83.
83. So we came way after this. This was already.
It was already established.
Established, right? In 75, I think my parents were hemming and hawing a little bit. Maybe I would imagine my parents probably did not buy a big diamond if they bought one at all. But I think they had a gold band. And then, I don't know about my mom's second marriage. But it's interesting that they get, the more the diamonds got established, they really physically became established into the idea of getting engaged only in the majority of the population in the 70s, right? I think that's what the video was saying. They put all the advertising in the 40s, 50s, 60s in movies to first establish the idea. They gave the British royalty tons of diamonds. The royalty had to come out with all this diamond stuff on them to connect to that. And then finally it wasn't until I think the 70s when Americans thought, well, I have to get an engagement ring. that was the 70s would be the earliest. But the 70s were exactly when the divorce epidemic was hitting, right? And they're directly related. Feminism, divorce, and diamonds all went in the 70s. Circumcision, this is the U.S., also Australia, but Australia got over it. And then boom, just went through the roof all at the same time. And so I tend to think these things must be related. They must be they might even have a causal relationship, like he's suggesting. Yeah, Shamrock is suggesting that more diamonds equals more divorce. The more diamonds you have. I guess we're seeing that in China right now. When I first came to China 15 years ago, Chinese prided themselves on being traditional family people that never got divorced. Divorce was a shame. They put divorce on your ID card. Oh, this person is divorced. And you have to show that on your ID in China. Everywhere. You have to show it everywhere. If you're divorced, it's going to say that everywhere. And that was such a shame.
But now
it's...
I know a lot of Chinese.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting divorced. And then at the same time, I never heard of this before, but they're doing it in China, of all places. They're putting diamonds on things. I thought in China, jade was supposed to be the valuable rock. And Chinese in the history, I've never read in any historical Chinese document that they thought diamonds were worth something. I've never seen that.
I've seen jade and I've seen gold.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody having diamonds here.
Yeah, the measure of currency in China for a couple thousand years was liang, right? And the 1 liang is actually a measurement of the weight of these little things that look like boats, right? Then I guess they pour the gold or silver into these things, and then there's a little dip in the middle because they pull it up, and then that's what they look like. They look like little boats with a little heap in the middle, right?
Yeah, I always thought they looked like little hats or something.
Yeah,
weird looking things.
They're weird. It's a weird standard. That's what the standard of value was in China for a long time. They never talked about
I have
diamonds.
1 liang of diamonds.
Yeah, never
happens.
And then that brings us, if you're talking about Asia, what happened before China was Korea and Japan. You could read about this very same issue in Korea and Japan. Japan is very recent. I think Japan was in the 80s and 90s. It was only until the 80s or 90s the Japanese got the idea that you buy an engagement ring. And then before that, it was literally unheard of. They never thought diamonds were valuable.
Oh, actually, when I got married, there was no. I refused. I would not buy a rock. Here, I will pick something off the ground and give to you. It means I love you forever.
Yeah,
that's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't see the point of it, and I talked to this with my wife, and she also agreed. Well, it's just not really a traditional thing to buy a diamond or anything like that, because it's. So yeah, it was actually quite good in one respect, but when I told everybody back in Australia that I'm getting married, I said, what kind of diamond did you buy? I didn't.
Oh man!
I was like, what? So I didn't get the Hollywood
surprise.
That apparently everyone should have when they're trying to get engaged.
There's that slip, right? They say, "Oh, you shouldn't have."
Oh.
Well, maybe I really shouldn't have.
Really? Okay, then I'll take it back. Sorry, my bad.
It's fascinating. There's the feminine quality of wanting to watch men bleed. On the one hand, it's the draining of the prana, or the chi, as we say in Chinese. This whole pro-masturbation and pornography movement, the pornification of politics, everything else. We're living in a world practically dominated by this whole bleed the males, turn them into slaves. But it doesn't satisfy anyone more than a woman in a romantic relationship. She would say, if a man puts this forward, it's like he just flushed, let's say, $10,000 down the toilet, supposedly for her, and it's bleeding. He just bled himself. She might be subconsciously aware that if she turned around and took that very same diamond to a pawn shop, she might get $50 for it. But then there's that, something really turns some women onto this idea that, well, if you really bleed, if you really pay, this makes them so happy. And it's very impractical. So at the same time, being in China during this whole process has been very interesting because I didn't get to see that process in America or anywhere else. And there's this, but it wasn't everybody agreed. There's some Chinese saying, no, this diamond thing is stupid. And they said the best husband was the husband that gives his wife a cabbage. You call it Napa cabbage, but a cabbage for when he proposes, or I don't even think they propose in China really. It's not do they?
I think that's a new thing as well.
Yeah.
Because in Chinese it's 求婚.
Yeah.
Meaning to beg.
Yeah.
For marriage.
Beg for marriage. Yeah.
That's something that I really didn't understand.
Oh yeah, that's right. So this is true too. The whole idea of proposing and having an engagement is completely false. It's not traditional in China. The tradition in China is in fact that the families meet and agree, and very slowly it becomes sort of a reality.
So when they have the dowry and such, and
the dowry, when that gets paid,
will the families swap how much money
and the ceremony is king. The ceremony rules everything. They still do not recognize very much the law. Chinese wouldn't ride down the wrong side of the street if they respected law, right? So the law that, okay, I went to the office and I signed the papers. I noticed this was true with my Italian ancestors also. They went to the office to sign the papers first at some date before. But nobody really considered them married until they went to church and had their ceremony.
Well,
in China, they have ceremonies, right?
Yeah.
They wait till the ceremony, and then, okay, now you're married.
I had this ceremony. It was about 6 months after I literally got married.
Right.
I wasn't considered married until I had
you have the ceremony.
Big ceremony, and the people came around.
That's right. So that's the real thing, the ceremony at that point. So this whole engagement idea is false. This idea, and it's not a personal thing. It shouldn't be a personal thing in Asia. In Asia, if you're going to hang on to your traditions and your wise ancestral traditions, you understand that your marriage and your family is a part of the whole society, and you get the closest members of that society, two families, to talk about how this will work out in reality. And this whole so-called Western idea, I think it was probably the same in the West too, that your families need to talk about it, but very early on in America it became sort of a personal thing. Well, I want to get married. I'm doing it, just me personally. Maybe nobody else agrees with me, but then I just go do it. And then that's where you get this whole chohun or proposing scene,
begging,
and then
I will give you a bigger shiny rock than another guy.
I'll bleed more for you than the other guy. This is maybe a symbol of MIPS, because that's all bleeding yourself, and that's not practical. Why do the traditionalists in China say, I want a cabbage? Because a cabbage represents, in Russia and China and many other places, a practical, cheap thing to eat. It's good for you, it's cheap, it's practical, right? And if a man understands the practical way that people survive and have a family and make ends meet, because you do have to worry more about money when you have a family and more about how to make ends meet, then I would consider these practical expressions to be much more of value in that period while you're deciding to get married. I would be interested in, can this woman survive well? Could she go through hard times? Can she take care of herself, take care of others when they're sick or when there's accidents? How does she handle pressure? How does she handle the budget? Is she extravagant, or does she spend her money wisely and do things? These are things I would be looking at if I were having a family. And something else we noticed today about the whole diamond issue is it's just the opposite of what a real marriage arrangement would actually be aiming towards. When you're making a real marriage arrangement, you're talking about having a family, having kids. And then here, you're blowing enough money to send your son to college. You're taking essentially his college money and just blowing it on a car. Or you're taking enough money to pay the rent for, I don't know, for 2 years, 3 years.
See, that's one thing I could never understand. For buying an engagement ring or a fancy piece of supposed jewelry that looks good, if you're going to do that as an engagement or to get married, that's just a stupid idea. You're starting a new family. You should be saving the money or putting both families' money together to prepare you for a new life. You should be thinking about buying a house or at least some way to sustain your life together rather than how to start from a debt.
So what do you think you should do then? Let's say, I would imagine that there would be some brothers who are interested in marriage and having kids, and they find a woman they like, and there's a lot of things that are going for her, but she's got this problem in her mind that she wants an engagement ring. How should you convince your fiancée that it's a bad idea? How could you successfully convince her that the engagement ring and diamonds are a bad idea?
Well, I don't think it's about convincing, really. It should be from day one.
Yeah.
If they know you, and if two people are meant to be, well, not meant to be together, but if they're going to be together, they should understand each other.
Yeah.
And understanding, they should also know that you feel this way about diamonds.
I'm thinking about an incident where I have a friend who, he was getting married, and his prospective wife was, well, not pushing all the way, but she's saying, I would like an engagement ring. And so he was looking for some help. I suppose all I could think of at the time was to tell him to watch the documentary and get that information, get all of that stuff prepared. I think at the very least she should know that the object is worthless. If you go to sell it, you're getting nothing for it. And we're just going to lose a ton of money. I think what he ended up doing was finding a common interest between the two of them, which is traveling, and showing them how they could travel around the world twice if they didn't use this rock, right? And so I think that's a good strategy as well. You find a common interest, something, and say, look, this is what we can do with this money. We can use this money for something practical or within our common interest to do that. I mean, I think why he was talking about traveling too, because they were not what I would call householders at all. You know, they met. It was a romantic interest kind of thing, and like a lot of people, they don't think about kids and family as being related to marriage, and that's a long story how that happened. So, in any case, I think we could recommend to all the brothers to research this issue.
Definitely.
You watch the documentary. It's a good starting place, but that takes you to 1994. The current Goblin Mafia is Beryl Lazar, I believe. But you could check that up or correct me if I'm wrong. And do you really want to be supporting these people? These, penis cutters, these
criminal
baby torturer, criminal, pervert, weirdos. That's who you're paying. They're stuffing their suits, their hats, their things with these diamonds. They're smuggling them everywhere. This is how they maintain their livelihood. It's all in that first retail sale. You go to another goblin who's running a pawn shop, he'll tell you it's... he's on the other end, he'll say, no...
I don't even think it's about that. Sure, you shouldn't support these kind of people.
Yeah.
But I think, first and foremost, just look at the damage it does to the environment.
Yeah.
The machines, they destroy everything. These beautiful, pristine coastlines are just destroyed.
Yeah.
In order to get these worthless pieces of rocks.
It's a show for you. They want you to look at these massive fields that have been completely environmentally destroyed. I hope when you see the documentary you notice this. There's so many shots, so much film of these landscapes as far as the eye can see that are completely destroyed. And when you know that you can make diamonds synthetically that you're unable to even you're unable to distinguish from a natural diamond for cheap and also environmentally friendly without turning a single stone, without killing a single animal. These reef diamonds, they're taking these vacuums along the reefs and just apparently destroying all the coral, all the habitat for fish and urchins and starfish. Everything else is completely destroyed, and it's almost a show. It's like the TSA in America, right? Like, we care about safety, and then they're patting you down, molesting you, taking pictures. We care, and it's just a big show to justify themselves. And why we say it's a show when it's not a real proof is because there's still lasting safety issues in America. There will be more bombs and incidents in America because the criminals are in the government and they're running this, and that's why they're making the show. They're trying to use the show instead of doing something. But here in Nanjing, it's a bit worse, right? They dig up the roads to prove that they're doing lots of work to give you your lines, your phone line, your internet, your water. And instead of putting all these things in at once and putting in the lines that everybody needs, they purposefully don't put them in. And then every couple of months, they have a team of ditch diggers who dig up the whole road, dig in there, they block the road off. And it's one of the backwards aspects of Nanjing. So many roads are blocked off. There's a lot of pollution and dust coming up from all these ditches and roads being taken up. And then it's actually a show. It's the government trying to get more money from us in taxes, saying, look, if you want a phone line or if you want a pipe, this is going to cost a whole lot of money. Our position on that is like, well, if you want more money, I'll give you more money, but don't destroy the environment when you do it. I'm not going to pay you more money because you're blowing things up and ruining things in front of me. It doesn't impress me that way.
I'll pay you more money to do less work.
Right.
Meaning I'll pay you to do the job properly in the first place.
Right. And to keep our environment clean and safe like we would expect from our government. Well, it was a very interesting discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we thank you for your attention. Home from the KBH. Okay, here we go, brothers. We are KBH. This is Uncle Jeebers. This is your cousin Shamrock.
Hi.
And we just enjoyed the old 1994 documentary film called The Diamond Empire, which appears to be a collaboration between certain patriots in the U.S. government and maybe a member of the new mafia that is controlling diamonds and wanted to give a worse name to the old mafia.
Help give them the boot.
The goblin mafia that was controlling all the world's diamonds, the De Beers mafia. De Beers openly operates in Nanjing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was quite interesting. Today, when we were walking through the subway, we saw an advertisement for how the diamond store here was promoting the film festival in Germany, in Berlin.
In Berlin, Germany.
Because everybody knows Nanjing and Berlin, they go together like
yeah, Nanjing, Berlin, perfectly. They're like brothers in lizards.
Yeah, I think so.
Lizards, yeah.
Yeah.
Not sisters, really.
Yeah.
and they were proudly announcing that they were funding about carrots.
Well,
No.
Kind of.
Kind of?
Yeah, you're getting there.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Yep.
All right. Potatoes?
No. Think back towards
Getting colder.
They do have carrots in them.
That's right. Maybe those carbon crystal things.
That's it. Yeah,
right.
the shiny rocks.
Yeah.
They love the shiny rocks for some reason.
So there's advertisements flashing up on your screen today too.
Yep.
What do we call this? We call this synchronicity. So just as we're watching this old documentary, certain things about diamonds just stand out everywhere that we didn't notice before. I didn't notice those advertisements. Well, it's called Tezero, I think is the company. And I don't really know what Tezero is. Maybe that's also Chen Yan in Chinese. Could be the same company.
Possibly.
Yeah. And that would be what we call like a laundered company. There's like 200 companies between De Beers and whoever's selling. Or now they're saying that a lot of these diamonds, perhaps most of them, are coming from Russia, which means that's from the Lev Leviev mafia. Lev Leviev is a very goblinish name. And he runs the Chabad Lubavitch. And the Chabad Lubavitch, or they were sponsors of the Berlin Film Festival, where they give away the golden bear, not the diamond bear, but the golden bear.
Also, it's quite funny to see. I went to watch a TV show earlier today, and well, everyone knows that that China loves pop-ups on computer screens and websites. So today when I went to watch a TV show, there was an advertisement, and of course it popped up. And would you believe what it was for? Have a guess. I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
All right. The first guess is